And welcome back, folks, for another recap here of Atlanta. Jumping into episode 7 of the final season. This episode is Snipe Hunt. Terrell and I are going to cover this very monotone episode.
Yeah.
Didn't laugh much in this one. But as we try to really seal the deal on this whole series of Atlanta, I think that this sort of conversation we knew was going to be had at some point. Didn't know it was going to be an entire episode, but this episode did really focus on Van and Ern and what's the state of their relationship and what is co-parenting going to look like. We know that Ern has an opportunity in LA. Van would be stuck. Well, I wouldn't say stuck, but Van's decision is to stay back in Atlanta. They're not together, but there obviously had always been feelings that just never had been addressed. And in the middle of all of this is Lottie's sixth birthday, where Lottie once again steals the episode for me. This young actor in Austin Ellie Fisher is fantastic, and I can't wait to see her grow up and take bigger roles and get more of the spotlight. A lot of charisma and such a little body there, and it's with being in scenes with these two very creative people and very respected actors. I mean, that says a lot that little Austin could come in and like really steal these moments. But nonetheless, they all work together very well. It's a very small cast, 4 people in this episode in total. So we got to our favorites here. So overall, this episode was very underwhelming considering all of the craziness that we had in all the other previous episodes. So I didn't laugh much, but it did tell parts of this entire series and story that at some point we were going to need to address. So, I'm not going to complain too much, but I doubt I got much to say else about this. I got a few other things, but that's pretty much my summary of episode 7. What about you?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this is a backdrop from what we've been getting since episode 1, where it's just been one crazy thing after another. But this is also something that I've been wanting for the last couple seasons, or at least since last season. I wanted some closure on the state of what was going on with them.
Yeah.
And for the first time, we finally get a conclusive answer as to where this is going. And I'm happy, and I had a bit of a moment where I was that scene that later in the episode just really like, man, this is real. This is really him like reaching out, like no vague answers, no hey, what's going on? This is how I feel on the table in front and on this scene, and you see both of them just really acted at that point. It was a great moment. I'm really, like I said, I'm really happy to. As this entire season is titled, the final season, its job is to put closure on a lot of different stuff and introduce characters that didn't have time. Lottie in 2 episodes, you know what I mean? Like you said, stealing the show with just her whole attitude, her whole
banter, mannerisms, and just this.
Yeah, their daughter's already an Atlanta celebrity, man. She's done 20 shows, 2 movies. So this is a great episode, man. I really love it. Like you said, not a lot of like funny stuff happening here, but I really love that we were able to get a conclusive moment for Van and Ern.
Yeah,
after seeing 3-4 seasons of what are they, what's going on, and so we finally get a conclusive ending on what's going on with them going forward.
Yeah. So they decided to go a little camping trip. They did they rented some campground area, Airbnb, the campground, put up a tent, and this is ways for them to celebrate Lottie's 6th birthday, but yet it had a lot more purpose than that. But yeah, when they pulled up, it was kind of funny a little bit that the guy was just like, hey, you come down here, make sure you go 5 miles per hour. But to me, at first I was just thinking like, black people don't go camping, so I know this is about to get silly.
It reminded me of that movie with Megan Good and her husband renting that house or buying that guy house. Was it I can't think of the actor's name, but I instantly thought of that when they had the whole thing as you think he's going to kill us moment.
Yeah, just about to mention that. Yep. And surely they didn't let me down, because as they put up the tent, it looked terrible. But there was some other things. Like I was definitely reaching for like substance in this. I was looking at Lottie go to the water and she's looking across, and I'm just like, do she see anything? And I know what they were trying to hint at, but they didn't obviously go full tilt with it. And I for sure thought like, oh, this is about to be late Lanier. So they, somebody's about to go disappear in this. Like I literally thought that's what they were gonna go with that. I mean, they've already discussed it before in another episode, but I thought that's what they were gonna do. But obviously it was nothing funny about the beginning parts of this episode. But then when Van talked about activities that they were gonna do, she said we're gonna go snipe hunting. Now I had never heard of this, but I did look it up, and basically it is a practical joke in which you have somebody who is the newcomer basically thinking they're going to catch something that doesn't exist. It reminds me of like when I started a new job and they always used to tell me about like the 7th floor, and they was like, oh, no one goes up on the 7th floor. And there was not really a 7th floor on the elevator, but there was a 7th floor on the elevator. You just had to go to a special elevator, but they was just like, oh, no one goes up to the 7th floor. And they always used to make up all these things about what it was. So I get the whole like trolling aspect of it, but God, was it fucked up. I'm like, that's your daughter. Why are you doing that to her here? But, that's when Ern was kind of just like, yo, are you really like out here like trying to like dupe our daughter? Like for real? But at the same time, Lottie's making the best of it. She bare hands a toad, which I was like, oh, okay. She has that that instinctual like hunting aspect with her. Like, she kind of built for the wilderness, although black people really aren't. So that was the thing. But other than that, I mean, it really came down to, they talked about sleeping arrangements, and Ern was going to sleep outside the tent, which I was kind of like, really? They had compartmentalized tent where they was going to all have their own room. It didn't work because it didn't set up the tent right. So then Ern had to stay outside. I'm like, oh my God, this is cruel. But
I could imagine, like you said, him sleeping outside the tent, and I thought it was a joke. They were dead serious. But like, I could imagine up to that point, the relationship between Van and Ern has always been probably, let's not present something to Lottie that's not what it is. Yeah. So let's not have you sleeping up like all snuggled all together and stuff like that. And they probably never slept in the same room or anything like that. Because remember the first season, we see him just kind of coming and going. It was never like a official thing. You know what I mean? So I could imagine like, hey, this is probably the reason why Ern is probably is sleeping on a different side of the tent and stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, man, when it's cold outside, people get the desperate measures. So, it started with it being cold and then a conversation, one thing to the next. And they started to talk about, the significance of the cities. And, Van, did you have any reason why you could not leave Atlanta? What was so important to you with Atlanta? And then he's confessed his love and his declaration of wanting to be a family, and how much Lottie means to him, and then how much Van means to him. And Van wasn't just his baby mother, but he really loved her. And, he just laid it all out there. And Van pretty much was just kind of like, hey, it is what it is. I mean, at one point she was basically like, I know you don't dislike me just because of Lottie, which is a really important conversation. Right. But she addressed it and she said, no. I'm not just Lottie. You're not just Lottie's mom. I actually have love for you. And there's that. And even before this,
something that he struggled to say to her directly on the show for a while, and she just needed to hear it. You know what I mean? Because for a while she was just a part of the journey. Like, he was growing, he's getting bigger, he's obviously getting money, and she was just kind of there. So it's something that she definitely just needed. She needed to hear. She needed some concrete. Like, look, if I go, I don't want it to be I'm your babysitter. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that he had that real moment. I don't know why he waited so long, but I'm glad that they had that moment, man. I really appreciate that we're getting that type of closure for these characters.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of maturity with this character, Ern, and over the seasons, and getting to this point and being so confident to do so is telling about the journey. Right. And I'm glad that as the viewers, we were able to get that, because this kind of was like a gray area of like, are we ever going to address this?
Right.
But the only other funny thing of this episode, or mildly funny thing of the episode, is Lottie saying that she caught the snipe, and they was just like, and they told Lottie to drop the lantern and drop the bag and run over here, and she did, and Ern goes to investigate what's in there, and he screams like a baby, which was so funny. Could have been a snake, could have been something else, who knows? But no one knew what it was, and it just got out of there. But I don't know. To me, man, that's all that we got in this episode for episode 7. Just a practical joke on their kid, and then the rekindling of co-parents now,
Right.
making it a thing. And Van says she's down to go to LA. So I don't know if they're indicating that we're going to get a spinoff or some sort.
I think it's done after this. I mean, I feel like the way they've been filming this show for a while, like every 2 years or whatever, it's been really hard for them to try to do it, especially with all the actors going on the bigger projects. So it's kind of, for them to be able to commune and do this show is definitely special for them. And I hope they have like a special or kind of like a behind the scenes of them like doing this final thing, because I would definitely love to see it. But definitely something else in this episode too, as we get into it, is like we were saying earlier about the tent, when they were talking about, he was talking to Lottie, and her responses to him, like he really kind of wasn't like he was her dad or whatever, like she didn't want him there. Or the moment on the boat where she was like, I wish grandpa was and grandma was here, because that's the life that she's known with her grandparents and her mother. Her father's there, but he hasn't, with him, going off and whatever, he hasn't really been there 100%. So he makes the comment like, she's acting like I'm not even here, like, you know what I mean, like, which is indication like, okay, he really is trying to be in his daughter's life. He's really trying to make this work by any means possible. Him renting out the whole campground for whatever reason, just to make this work. And as Van says, like, are you doing this as a flex to push my decision to go to LA? So you use this as an emotional thing to get me to go with you. He's like, no. Several different times he's trying to push the conversation like, look, I really do feel this way for you. I don't know why you have it in your head that I really do have this love for you, even though they have this on and off relationship. But they definitely, like I said, put a lot of pieces together that I think a lot of fans had wanted answers to, and we definitely got it here.
Yeah. And also, I definitely want somebody to look at me the way that Van looks at Ern as he was interacting with Lottie. Like, that was the moment I was just like, yeah, she still got something for him. And I think she was just trying to balance, what she's feeling and what she's thinking, and trying to make a very decisive answer here. And it just took some time, and it kind of worked. So he made sure Lottie was asleep, which was a funny test that he did. I feel like I've heard somebody do that to their kids before. Yeah, and he's like, I'm just making sure you sleep, but they handled it, and then that's that. So I don't know what else to talk about in this episode. So
I have one thing, and I don't know what else you have, but a big part that I notice is the final moments of the episode where we're kind of seeing Van and Ern through the viewpoint of Lottie, and she's smiling or whatever. Like she's not just seeing like her mom and dad separate, but she's seeing them together as a family. Like you getting a different viewpoint of them interacting for the first time as a family. And I thought that was a really well shot scene, the way they handled that, man. Because like her viewpoint of them is kind of changing throughout the episode of how she sees them. They're separate, and now they're together and in this moment for together. So I thought Erm was going to propose, but it might be a different episode.
Oh boy.
But
all right,
Lottie ain't got no emotion out here. Chocolate wore her out. In post, I guess.
What an emotional roller coaster for Lottie, man. She came in very disinterested in anything that was happening to, doing the hunting thing, even though that was like supposed to be the thing that they were supposed to do. And she just went out and did it herself, did a little bit of exploring, and, wakes up to her parents being back together. And now things are appearing in the light that she's never seen. And she seems to be very on board for it. So.
Yo, another thing too, you can tell Ern got money now, man, because this is the second time he's like, yo, just leave something that he spent the ton of money on. Yo, leave that car, leave that tent. Like, all right, man, we got it. You rich now, we got you. But yeah, man, like I said, shout out to the actress, man. She did a phenomenal job in another episode. once again, man. And it definitely the way they shot that made it feel like this was like a legit family moment that they were having. And, that was real tears. So
Anywho, folks, jump in the comments, let us know your thoughts about episode 7. Even with the absence of the comedy in the labs, it did really move forward with the story with all of our very important characters as we try to tighten this all up into a bow before we all are done with this. I'm not sure how many more episodes we got, but we're getting a lot more of the answers that we've been wanting, and we'll see what happens next. So we'll see what they got for episode 8. But yeah, we'll be back next week with another recap of Atlanta. Jump in the comments, let us know your thoughts about it. And folks, as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.